prayer offered by our PCSO chaplain, Joe Samoga. Afterwards, our Pledge of Allegiance will be given by Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, and good morning, Board. Lovely Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we gather together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that we would challenge each other to reach higher and further to the best we can. We ask this in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the prayer and for the Pledge of Allegiance. We now begin our Pinal County Board of Supervisors meeting dated Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. I know I missed it before, but could you silence your phones, please? It'd be helpful in the course of our discussion. That includes the board members, right, Supervisor Surdy? What's that?
Yeah. I'm silencing my phone.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. And then the reminder of possible, we're going to have probably a possible recess if we end up going over time at about 12:30. Some of us need a lunch break, and so we'll be doing that. And then, so the first item up is call to the public. Consideration, discussion of the public, of comments from the public. Those wishing to address the Pinal County Board of Supervisors need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of the public comment will be limited to directing our staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for further consideration and a decision for a later date. So please be aware of that. And then as you come up, be respectful, please. You know, that's one thing that we absolutely need in our society today is more love and kindness. You can all different and everything. I know I did with my dad often, but we always ended with a love and a kindness between us. And so I think it's the same scenario here. So with that, I have a couple of cards here. Tony Smith, first man on the docket.
Thank you, Chairman Goodman, County Supervisors. I'm Tony Smith, President of Pinal Partnership, and I wish to read a brief statement in memory of Tom Smith, who passed away about a week or more ago, who was the dedicated and loving husband of Sandy Smith. The board and members of Pinal Partnership are saddened at the news of the passing of Tom Smith. Tom and his wife Sandy were founders of the Pinal Partnership organization and were the heart, soul, and spirit to us for many, many years. Tom served as our president until 2009. Sandy followed Tom as our president after serving on the Pinal County Board of Supervisors after her term ended in 2008. Tom and Sandy are the epitome of public service. For the decades were synonymous with Pinal County. So much of what we have come to take for granted and build upon in Pinal County today is thanks to Tom and Sandy year after year advocating for the good of the county. Pinal Partnership marks the passing of Tom with deep gratitude, and we extend our ongoing love, support, and gratitude to Sandy. We are here because Sandy and Tom set us in motion. We continue to try to make good on the incredible and important vision they both spent so many years bringing to fruition. Thank you, board members.
Thank you. I want to call you Supervisor Smith, but out of respect, but I appreciate with the words of got a lot of titles. Our next one is Arlen Trout. Is Arlen here?
Okay. I have to get my glasses on. My name is Arlen Trout, and I live on Kings Ranch Ridge in Gold Canyon, Arizona for over half a century. I'm here today to talk about hush money. Donald Trump is in a criminal trial for using hush money to win the 2016 presidential election. Arizona has recently indicted 18 of Trump's co-conspirators for forging and filing false documents. And I realize I'm facing wall-to-wall Republicans this morning, and I believe you know why I'm here. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. It appears that Board of Supervisors hired attorneys with public funds in September of 23. That has hushed up a land development scandal that started in March 21. This was immediately after I provided Chairman Jeff Surtee with evidence of involvement by high-ranking county officials. In March 21, a local land developer named Kenneth Dean Russell started trespassing, damaging my family's property, and threatened me with his powerful church and friends in Pinal County government. He threatened he could have me arrested and financially ruin my family if I didn't give him property he demanded. I called the Pinal County Sheriff and reported Russell for trespass, harassment, and property damage on March 23. Protective orders were issued on March 30, and my son was forced to sue Russell and his associates on December 20th, 21. This was after Russell hit my neighbor with a sledgehammer and had his easement illegally abandoned and to acquire fraudulent building permits that included my family's private driveway. This legal battle to prove Russell was lying and trying to take our property cost 4 precious years and $155,000 in attorney fees. The trial on March 29th and the ruling on May 1st, 24, in Trout versus Russell, unveiled a systemic web of corruption, exposing collusion among local land developers and public officials and a nepotistic clique of senior judges in Pinal County. At Russell's trial, he blamed his friends in county government for guiding him to target my family and our property. Here's a list of public officials involved in this matter: Judge William O'Neill, Judge Christopher O'Neill, Judge Robert Carter Olson, Judge Joseph Giorgini, Judge Stephen Fuller, Judge Lacey Gard, and Judge Jason Homburg, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb, Pinal County Attorneys Kent Faulkner, Alan Quist, Tom McDermott, Lester Chow, Brent Billingsley, and Laura Gelbreth from the Pinal County. Oh, did I run out of time? Too bad. Well, I'm about a minute short, so in any case, I've come to you for help on this matter, and you hired attorneys, and nobody will talk to me about it. I've been here 4 times, and you guys look at each other and say you're going to get back to somebody or do something, and nobody's contacted me. So I'd like to know what you have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I may, just for the record, Mr. Trout did submit his comments to the board.
Okay, thank you. So that's a matter of record for people to look and see too, correct?
That is correct, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't have any other cards. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board at this time? Mr. Ravelis. Would you state your name and proximity where you live for the record?
Okay for me to speak at this time?
Oh, okay. All right, all right. Mr. Revelis.
Roberto Revelis, resident of Gold Canyon, and a longtime friend of our recently deceased Tom Smith. We both hailed from Gila County, and we're always proud to reminisce about Gila County. And, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. We need to be respectful, but I also think we need to be truthful. And so today my comments are that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat its mistakes. And a reality check. Arizona's legislature is preparing to enact HCR 2660, Secure the Border Act, repealing and repeating, rather, the mistakes of SB 1070 from the past, which was ruled unconstitutional for its authorizing local law enforcement to act as immigrations that resulted in unlawful, unconstitutional racial profiling, a matter in which I was engaged as part of the lawsuit. Mistakes that today continue to cost over $250 million to Maricopa County taxpayers, and at the next report expected to be $300 million ongoing costs. Mistakes that, if approval of HCR 26 goes forward, will cost statewide taxpayers an additional $325 million. So million here, million there sounds like real cost to this person being pushed onto taxpayers by the Republican leadership. Unlike Pinal County's sheriff, Yavapai's sheriff, David Rhodes, asked, where is the money going to come from to support the additional costs for public safety? I ask, does Pinal County really want to consider adding the cost of new prisons, providing additional inmate health care, loss of construction workers? Do you really want to engage in the immoral caging and separation of children from their work-seeking migrant families? All of this to rile up an anti-immigrant base for November's election. The proposed HCR is a flawed and costly proposal designed not to reform our broken immigration system, but to rescue a criminally indicted insurrectionist presidential candidate from his deserved defeat in November's election. So how many more of these unconstitutional proposals is the board willing to go along with? So I ask my fellow taxpayers, contact our legislators, Representatives Teresa Martinez, David Marshall, David Cook, Senators T.J. Shope and Wendy Rogers. I understand repeat of history in executive session today. I hope that that history is not repeated in allowing the sheriff to profit from county taxpayer resources.
Thank you, Mr. Revelis. Thank you. Is there any others that would like to come forward? Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll close our public comments, and we'll move on to item number 2, presentation of certificates of service by Leo Liu.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Today we have 9 employees to honor. I'd like to start with 4 that I think are probably working and not able to be here from the sheriff's office, but the sheriff will be able to speak on their behalf. So I think if I could just go ahead and honor and congratulate them by name, and then if the sheriff would like to come up and speak, then it'd be great. Thank you. First, we have Troy Davis, who's been with us 20 years as a detention officer. We have Brian Hillman, who's a sworn sergeant, has been with us 20 years. Christopher Laprie, a sworn lieutenant, been with us 20 years. And Rory Skidell, 25 years, sworn sergeant. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Leo, thank you. None of them could be here today. Troy's working, and he's done a great job. He's been there, obviously, 20 years at the jail, which is we're appreciative of him. Sergeant Hillman is now retiring, and he is moving on to bigger and better things, I'm hoping. He's done an amazing job. He's been in detectives. He's He's had a great career, and he's been very valuable to the sheriff's office. Chris Lepre was one of my first sergeants when I came here to this agency. Was an amazing man and leader, and SWAT lieutenant for a long time, and he will be missed. He also has retired. And Rory Skadell is currently our canine sergeant. Continues to do a great job, SWAT operator. Obviously, he's 25 years of service. So we're extremely grateful for all of our employees, and we're certainly grateful for these employees who have spent a better part of their lives here at this agency and for the community and the county and representing us in a way, in a professional manner. And we are very grateful for them and their service. And I know they're not here today, but I want to congratulate them for the amazing service they've given to this agency, and a couple of them are still giving to this agency. So thank you today for the county for recognizing them for their hard work and their dedication to PCSO and Pinal County.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any others? Leo, is that it?
Yes, no, we have 5 more. So there'll be a big family picture at the end of this. Next, we have Kelly Bunker. I don't know if Kelly's present this morning or not. If you could, hey, Kelly. I don't think she wants to speak, so I'll just say thank you. And I got to work with Kelly many years ago, trying to keep our books straight, and she's very kind and professional always. So good that you're still here all these years, and thank you. Next, we have Deborah Pischel. I believe she's present, and County Attorney Volkmar. Thank you.
Board, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for giving us an opportunity to recognize Deb. She started over 20 years ago in our office as a victim service legal secretary. She's been throughout all over the place. She has been in our misdemeanor bureau. She's been in our felony bureaus. Most recently, she's been our caseload manager handling our intake. So all these cases that need to get processed, all through COVID, all of those things, she's been a champion. And probably the most valuable thing to me is she is always more than willing to come out and volunteer at public events. She's walked in parades with me. She brings her family out. She's attended events. She is just a consummate professional who's been outstanding. I appreciate the opportunity to thank her publicly, and hopefully we can all get a picture with her at the end of the day. I don't know, Deb, is there anything you'd like to say? And unfortunately, she has put in her notice, so I think we only have a couple more weeks with her. But she did 20-plus years, so.
Next, from facilities, we have Yolanda Smith, who's been with us for 20 years, keeping this place pleasant for us as we all spend our days and time here.
Good morning, Chairman, honorable board members, esteemed colleagues, and distinguished guests. I am David Rober on behalf of Facilities Management for 20-year honoree Yolanda Smith. I've only worked with Yolanda for a small portion of her 20 years with Pinal County, but I've learned that the east side of the county from Dudleyville to Saddlebrook is in very good hands with Yolanda. She's very good at what she does. She's dependable and always willing to do whatever necessary. Her coworkers often comment on how well the area is done when they go over and help or cover for her. Her direct supervisor has many good things to say on her behalf. It is an honor to have such a quality member of facilities custodial on our team for 20 years and hopefully many more. Thank you.
Next, we have Jan Vadimos from Public Health, who's been with us for 25 years, and I believe Marissa is here as well.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here with Jan this morning. Jan is one of our most valuable division managers. She wouldn't say that about herself because she's very modest, but whenever there's a new project, a new program, we're always like, who can we give this to? Jan. Jan knows so much about the community. Not only does she serve the community through public health, but she is involved in multiple coalitions, alliances. I don't think I could even name them all. I can think of just 5 off the top of my head, but she is so involved in the community, and we are so grateful to have her as part of public health.
Last but not least, we have Philip Bentley, who is a court security officer at our Superior Court, has been here for 25 years. Thank you, sir. And so now we're ready for the picture, Chairman.
Oh, let's do it. Those that have, could you come forward and have a picture with us? We appreciate it.
Take me anywhere. Scooch over just a little bit. Yeah. Try to scrunch him just. There you go. Tighten up just a little bit. There you go. There you go. All right. Nice looking. And look in here. Ready? 3, 2. Nice. Let's do it again. Smile this time. 3, 2. Nice. Thank you.
You know, there was a term used just a minute ago, MVP, and I would say that we have a lot of MVP players, most valuable players in a lot of our departments. And one of the things that's probably a highlight for me is being able to recognize those that have been with the county for so many years and and I've had a lot of the private sector talk about a lot of the assistance and things that each of our departments lends and gives. And I just want to echo some of the sentiments and things that were said by those that introduced those that have been here for such a long time. I think it was it you, Supervisor Miller, that you don't think you've ever worked that long in one place? Okay. All right, now we'll go on to the county manager's report.
Thank you, Chairman. To continue honoring and thanking our employees here, I'd like to just mention a couple of weeks that we didn't do proclamations for but are worth noting. Thank you to all of our staff that work in and support of our jail. We have around 200 of those staff. And last week, May 5th through May 11th was National Correction Officers and Employees Week. So shout out and thank you to them. In addition, today is the National Peace Officers Memorial Day. I know that the sheriff held the celebration a week or two ago, but like to thank all of those who served and have passed in the line of duty today. And then next, it's May 19th through the 25th is National Public Works Week. We have probably almost now close to 300 employees in development services. And so this week honors and celebrates the men and women across the country who provide and maintain our infrastructure and advance the quality of life for all. So thank you to all of them. And there's a picture at their latest safety annual meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of infrastructure, I just wanted to give an update. I know, Chairman, this is near and dear to your heart, the study to put Meridian Road through, from upwards north over the 24 into the 60. And we did have a management committee meeting at MAG to where this was approved. And so I just wanted to show a couple of slides that give you the visual and give you a timeline for it.
Cool.
There's the portion that we're talking about. Like they mentioned, 2 counties, 3 cities, 6 agencies. We got MAG and ADOT involved as well. Apache Junction, Mesa, Pinal, and Maricopa counties. There's your stretch there. We're going to go a little bit north of the 60 as development will also occur just north of the 60, but all the way down south to the 24. Just to give you an idea of some of the challenges as well with this, where there's existing road and where there's not existing and where alignments need to be made. So that's why the study will be a little bit complicated and it is needed and will take a little bit of time. Of course, we know there's a lot of development there occurring on just east of Meridian Road there on Ironwood and Apache Junction. And here's your timeline. We're going to do an RFP here pretty soon. Started in August and take about 12 months to do this study. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. I know this is something that we started, it's been 20, 25 years in the making that it should have been. But the reality is since 17, right, Supervisor Miller?
Yeah, well, if I may, thanks to your leadership and your tenacity to keep people on task to finally move this thing forward, because I understand, the plans were drawn years ago before any of us were on the board, and it just is like a natural. I don't understand why it takes so long to move some of this stuff forward, but thank you for being persistent and working on that, so thank you.
It's the right thing to do in this story. That's it. And so it's good that we've got our planning agency, MAG, working on that.
Well, Mr. Chair,
yes.
part of the issue of taking so long was how many agencies?
Yep.
6 agencies, counties, cities. Try to get everybody in the same room. It's tough.
It's herding cats, that's for darn sure. And then we had pushback on some of them, but nonetheless, the county took the lead and began building Meridian Road. And then we brought Queen Creek in to help us, and it's where it's at today. And I'm still a firm believer without Meridian Road, the SR-24 expedited by 4 years because of that. It wasn't supposed to be even open until 2026. So we were 4 years ahead of the time frame. And we're seeing a lot of the economic growth taking place in that region right now because of it. So I'll get off my high horse here. Now we'll go on to the next item, which is was that it? Okay, cool. The supervisor district's updates regarding our current or upcoming events that's taken place. We'll start with you, Supervisor Kavanaugh, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chairman. We have our State of the County meeting in Coolidge on June 8th at 4:45 p.m. You can go to tinyurl.com, Coolidge Town Hall, to register for that, as well as one coming up in Maricopa on June 29th, again at 4:45 p.m. It's tinyurl.com, Maricopa Town Hall. And then we had a groundbreaking for the Coolidge, in Coolidge for the Pinal Hispanic Council, which was fantastic. It's a great location on Central across from the post office, and they'll offer financial and medical and other mental health and other assistance for folks. And they hope to have the building completed before the first of next year. And it's another gem in downtown Coolidge, which is coming back to life after numbers of years. And I believe in 5 years, Coolidge will be the premier downtown in all of Pinal County. So, thank you.
Thanks, Supervisor Kavanaugh. Supervisor McClure.
Thank you. Yes, and I was at that groundbreaking. It's going to be a great facility, 8,100 square feet. And I would say it was warm out there, too, while we were shoveling dirt. But a great addition to the community. I really don't have anything else. Well, we came back from Washington, D.C. last week, had a good meeting with many government officials. We were at the Pentagon talking to Space Force. No, Mr. Sulu was not there, but we did have a good conversation about satellites and security, and we talked about the upcoming influx of electric vertical takeoff and landing taxis that are coming in the next couple of years to Maricopa County, certainly, and Amazon starting to deliver by drone in Maricopa County probably in the next quarter. So the future's coming faster than we're ready for, I'm sure.
Thank you. Jetsons, here we come, right?
Yeah.
Supervisor Surdy.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate how dry it is out there. We're right on the edge of fire season, and we've had a lot of little ones break out already. So please be careful and watch your catalytic converters. If anything's dragging from your vehicle, all of that stuff can spark on the side of the road, and it'll just get out of hand really quick. So be careful out there.
Thank you. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was not at the groundbreaking because I had Representative Congressman Juan Cisamonte visited Casa Grande and did a little mini tour of Ivanhoe Electric, which is a copper exploration operation that's happening over there. Very fascinating. At some point, I would like the rest of my colleagues to kind of see what's going on with that, and very innovative and very high technology operation, and is going to be a benefit to Pinal County at some point. Is already, actually. So
good. Thank you. As far as District 2, we've got a lot of things that have been happening. I'll speak quickly to the trip that we made to Washington, D.C. It was more of an economic development trip that we took with other entities from the Phoenix metropolitan area all the way to Queen Creek, Apache Junction, and so on and so forth. And the goal and mission was to see what programs are available to help us increase our road capacities, make them safer, and then any other type of potential revenue that could be, or potential dollars that could come in from our feds into our programs and things that we have here. It was very promising. I agree with Supervisor. I was on the infrastructure side of it. That's where I took most of the discussion and things with, and so we were able to meet with the Department of Transportation. We also met with the nuclear power group to discuss, because that's one of the biggest things we're going to have facing our area is the ability to have power. With us wanting to go to green energy, there's a lot of our coal plants that are being shut down, and so one of the biggest concerns that I have is the power outages that they've had over in Texas and other parts of the country, and I just want to avoid that. Okay, and then we have a bike rodeo / bike adoption that we have coming up this Saturday, and it will be at 9 a.m. from 9 to 11:30 a.m. at the Home Depot parking lot. And we were able to get approximately 40 bikes donated by various members throughout our community. And then we had the help of Santan Bikes, Walmart, Home Depot, and also Rural Metro in the form of donations and even providing space for us to keep and work on those bikes and material to replace the tires, seats, anything that needed to be done. And then, if you notice my wacky shirt, my wacky tie, the company Quick Quack, most of you are familiar with them, they did a fundraiser for us. And so between those entities, we were able to raise substantial enough to be able, we were able to meet the needs of the repairs and everything else. And so it's going to be a pretty good event. We have quite a few that have already spoken for the bikes. So anyway, we are inviting everybody to come from the community. They're going to be, the rodeo itself, they're going to be going over bike safety. There'll be some helmets and things of that nature, safety gear that's been being donated that will be handed out. And I would be there are certain individuals that participated in helping with this. Our county attorney's office has been a big support of this. In fact, if it wasn't for our county attorney's office, I don't believe Santan Bikes would have been involved. She's one of the owners there. And then our sheriff's department was a big help here. We had a couple of deputies. Ross Teeple was there helping repair and in the hot sun yesterday. And myself and two other individuals from the sheriff's department, they were a big help in repairing the bikes and things of that nature. So a lot of good things happening in our area. Now, I've tried to, over the course of this last year, tell our story from roads and infrastructure. And now I was able to take a flight with SRP. We have that, right? I was able to take with SRP a flight over the reservoirs that we have. They have 5 different collection points, and this video will depict everything. This is us telling our story along with SRP on our water issues and power issues.
One of the biggest issues from a lot of my constituents is about a water supply in relation to the amount of building and construction that's going on in the Pinal County area. The purpose behind this and talking to SRP, they put something together to where we were able to go up and actually look at the different collection points that captures the water supply that actually feeds water and power to our region.
So we're going to fly up the Verde, go over Bartlett and Horseshoe Reservoirs, then we're going to fly over the Tonto Basin, which is a tributary of the Salt, and then we'll fly back down the Salt.
We need to show people the forward thinking that's been happening with SRP and others like them so that people understand we're not just doing this willy-nilly. There's some plans to all of this.
The future of the water supply is a lot of little things adding up to something big. There's not going to be one thing that makes life easier or solves any one problem.
A lot of things have already been in the works for years, and the anticipation of the type of growth of where we're headed.
We're in a really good spot now. Even though we're in year 28 of the worst extended drought in the last 1,000 years, our reservoir system is fuller than it was at the beginning of this drought. The reason why that is, our 800,000 acre feet per year that we deliver is pretty much perfectly in line with the long-term median inflows.
We're way ahead on the water issues, and we're staying on top of it.
Here's Bartlett Dam in front of us.
We talked about a couple of projects, modifying Bartlett Dam to get more storage on the Verde River.
So here we are. We got Roosevelt Dam. It's over 300 feet tall. It's what started the whole thing.
Roosevelt Lake Flood Control Space Project, being able to store water above 100% full, capturing winter floods in the future will give you a new water supply.
I think we're coming up where the CAP goes underneath the SRP.
And then we talked about interconnect facility between the SRP system and the CAP system called a SCIF. And that would give us the ability to physically move those new water supplies to areas where we can't physically move water.
Which ultimately will help with some of our water issues over in Pinal County.
Those 3 projects are key for the future of Central Arizona's water supply resiliency and sustainability.
There's plenty of water. We are even looking into the future to be able to bring more water supply.
Building infrastructure, capitalizing off of existing infrastructure to get a little more water, working with other water supply agencies in cooperation, also being more conservative with water use and better water use efficiencies.
We actually use less water today with over 7 million people, and the production of farming has increased than we did in the 60s. That says a lot for the forward thinking, and it's continuing to move forward in that way.
There'll still be the ability to have houses and have the toilets flush and the showers runs and the tap comes on.
This tour is showing that we have their livelihood at our foresight. We're in very good shape. We're in good hands with the individuals that are over water conservation and looking at into the future, making sure that there's going to be plenty of water supply. Hopefully, we can actually communicate that to our citizens and to the people here in Arizona.
Just a shout out to SRP for taking the time to do this with us. I think it's very vital and important as we move forward into the future. Okay, we'll close that portion of our discussion and we'll move on now. Number 5, this is in regards to a proclamation for the Board of Supervisors to declare the week of May 19th through May 25th of 2024 as the National Travel and Tourism Week. Is Courtney here? There she is.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, Board of Supervisors. So this morning with this item, we are asking the board to recognize the importance of the travel and tourism industry within our county by approving a proclamation to declare National Travel and Tourism Week in Pinal County for next week, which is May 19th through May 25th, 2024.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? Do we have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the item as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I had discussion.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what? Can we hold the vote?
Discuss.
Yeah, we'll open it up for discussion.
I was just going to
again.
tell people to travel here, don't travel other places to spend your money. So that's the goal of our tourism, is to come visit us, not to go other places. So that's all I wanted to say.
That was a good discussion. Okay. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. You want to read that now?
I will. Thank you very much. The proclamation reads, whereas National Travel and Tourism Week was established in 1983 and has become a part of celebrating the U.S. travel community and highlights how travel stimulates economic growth, creates quality jobs, inspires new businesses, and elevates the quality of life for Americans every day. Whereas the travel industry is essential to the success of every industry and will continue to be a critical part of Pinal County's economy, development, and workforce in the coming years. Whereas travel represents an economic powerhouse for every state and destination across the country with overall economic output of $2.8 trillion and support over 15 million American jobs. Whereas travel spending supports vibrant and safe communities across the United States and in Pinal County, generating $89 billion in state and local tax revenues in 2023 to support essential services such as education, emergency response, public safety, and more. Whereas in 2022, tourism generated $931.5 million in direct spending and $76.3 million in tax revenues, while employing 7,700 people and providing estimated tax relief for $510 per household in Pinal County. Whereas travel enables success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, defense, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations that power our nation's and Pinal County's economies. Whereas small businesses account for more than 60% of leisure and hospitality employment across the U.S. Whereas travel is an essential industry, and we must continue to communicate that growing travel activity leads to economic growth, benefits businesses, fosters mutual understanding, and connects the nation. Therefore, we, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim May 19th through May 25th, 2024, as National Travel and Tourism Week in Pinal County, and urge the citizens of Pinal County to join us in recognizing the essential role this industry plays in our county. Proclaim this 15th day of May, 2024.
Do you mind if we get a photo with you? I know you're leaving the country, so.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Country of Arizona. Yes.
You get to hold it.
That's the best it's ever looked.
That's the best side.
And looking here, nice and happy. 3, 2. Again, one more. 3, 2. Nice. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to item number 6, presentation and discussion regarding the fee proposals for recreational shooting sites by the Bureau of Land Management. Natasha, are you going to handle this one, or is it Leon? Okay. There's Leon.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, I'm Leon Thomas. I'm the district manager for the Phoenix District Bureau of Land Management. I won't ask for a picture. I know you guys don't want to take one with me afterwards.
It's the hat.
It's the hat, right? Very good presentation and video on the water usage. If I can get a link to that, I would love to show that to some of my constituents and other people that I meet with. Very, very well done.
Would love it.
I'm here today to talk about our business planning that we've been working on for the last, actually, year on fee site proposals for our recreational target shooting sites. Just a brief history on our recreational target shooting in the Phoenix district. For the most part, we were managing chaos for a very long time. We had natural resource damage, and we had people out there trying to do other recreational type activities like hiking and biking and things of that nature, and we were just having conflicts. I'm not saying the conflicts were all tied to recreational target shooting, but there were just cross uses, and it just wasn't safe for the user in many capacities. And so we became the first district in the Bureau of Land Management to create recreational target shooting sites across the district. Next slide, please. We have a total of 5 sites planned, 4 built out. We have one shooting site that's down here in Pinal County, Box Canyon, and we have 3 that are up north, Church Camp, Baldy Mountain, and Saddleback, which is right off of Carefree Highway there up north Phoenix, west of the Ben Avery shooting range that is managed by Arizona Game and Fish. Next slide, please. Just another slide showing the sites there. What I'd like to point out here is we've actually just finished the planning process for our Table Mesa area, 11,000-acre recreational area where I'll show the church campsite numbers in a second, but that site right there now gets a visitation of about 46,000 people over the last fiscal year. This Table Mesa site, we think that we can build 3 sites, minimum of that size. So there'll be camping, hiking, biking, recreational target shooting of the magnitude I just displayed, along with some interpretive type stuff as far as geology and cultural resources there. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, those are the sites that we currently have opened, and this slide shows the use numbers that we've had over the last fiscal year. As you can see, the most popular one is our Church Camp Road site, which we had visitation of 47,000 visitors over the last fiscal year, for a total of 71,000 total visitors. Next slide, please. So with those numbers, as you can imagine, there's a lot of maintenance that we have to undertake as we keep these sites up and running. The steel targets there, every site has steel targets. We're not letting people go down range and place paper targets. We're actually constructing those steel targets ourselves. We've had several iterations of those steel targets. I think we're on model number, I feel like it's 18. Basically, we were having, bolts fly off and things of that nature in other models. We finally got it to where we have it down pat as far as, welding the targets to the infrastructure, and they're sustaining a little bit better than before. But all those services, all the things you're seeing there as far as equipment rental, lead remediation, target building, maintenance of the site, has all been from just our base dollars. Next slide, please. So the key point on this slide here is the fees that we're going to be proposing. All of those fees that are collected at the sites will go back into the maintenance and operation of the recreational facility and sites that we have across the district. Next slide, please. The proposed fees that we are looking at are $10 per day for a site, $25 per month, and $80 per year. What I'd like to point out here is for $25 a month or $80 a year, that means they can use any site across the district. So once you pay that $80 fee for an annual pass, you can go to any one of our shooting sites and use it all year. Same with the monthly pass. Next slide, please. So we just released the fee proposal for public comment on Monday. It'll be out for comment for 30 days. From there, what we'll do is we'll take those comments and, of course, assess them and see if we need to make any adjustments to our business plan. We will then present the entire business plan along with our response to comments to our Resource Advisory Council, the recreation portion of that, for their input and approval. And then from there, make any adjustments and implement whatever fee structure is set up based on the public comment and the proposal from the RAC. I will pause there for questions.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On this range, there'll be a fee, $10 a day or $25 a month. And how will that be collected and tracked, and how do people pay that?
On site, using your phone, we'll either have scan to pay, or you can pull up the site on rec.gov and pay straight from your phone.
Is that it? Supervisor Surdy?
So one of the reasons this is important is because if you don't give people a place to shoot, they will go create their own wildcat ranges, which are very destructive. As I always allude to fire, how safe is a range like this, and will it be able to stay open all summer due to risks like that?
So currently, we're finding that the sites are very safe. We've only had one fire on the site so far, and we were able to stamp that thing down. It was only 1/4 of an acre before we got it stamped down. We regularly have our fuels team go out, do veg treatments on all of the sites, and put down some pre-emergent so that, the vegetation won't sprout back up along the sites. We, right now, will not be having the sites open during fire season. Reason being is because right now, with the pre-emergent just being laid down, we feel like we only have one site that is ready to be open during fire season. Don't want to keep that site open because I don't want it to get overrun and destroyed, being the only site open. But I expect that, going into the next few seasons, we should be able to have the sites open during fire season.
And speaking of fire season, how close are we? And the federal agencies, you get the National Forest, state land. Who makes the decision on when it actually should close and have restrictions?
We come together and jointly decide, when conditions meet. the parameters. We'll go ahead and go into fire restrictions then. We, as the line officers of the agencies, make that decision, and we're projecting that we'll go into fire restrictions around Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Leon, thank you for your service. You've done a good job. I've always been impressed with that's taking place on a lot of our public lands, and this is a good example of it being arranged to where it's going to be used by the public, and so thank you. You've been doing a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That was information only, so now we're on to item number 7. The president. This is an update from our presidential preference election primary and general elections report, and information only. Dana.
Good morning, Chairman Goodman, members of the board. Today in my world is called E-76 to the primary. That means we are 76 days prior to the election. Some of the things we're going to receive information on today are one of the things that we were able to capture from the presidential preference election. The pie chart here shows where a resounding amount of the money goes to during an election, and you can see that it is for the printing and postage. Currently, we have about 300,000 voters in Pinal County. Of those 300,000 voters, we have about 200,000 that are on the active early voting list. Also, we not only have early voters, we also have polling place or election day voters. So you can see where this is broken up to kind of give you an idea of where our funds go during a presidential preference election. I have more information about that, though, because we know I'm a numbers girl. So for the presidential preference election, we were able to identify with the help of our finance office and, of course, our operations managers, the different buckets of money that we utilize. And what that looks like for us is identifying early voting away from election day voting. For the presidential preference for early voting, it was a little under $510,000 was excised. We had 54,142 early voters show up through either in-person early voting or submitting their ballot by mail, 15 ballot drop boxes, 5 satellite in-person early voting sites. This starts 27 days before an election, but we also, due to recent changes in legislation, these people must be present for curing of ballots the weekend before the election and the weekend after the election now. So there is some overtime costs involved in these numbers. For Election Day, we had 5,430 voters show up. There were 52 polling locations by statute for a presidential preference because it is a partisan election. We are required to minimize to 50% of our polling locations. We had 270 poll workers, 54 troubleshooters, and 15 different election board workers. The cost of that was right over $340,000. We have submitted requests for reimbursement to the Secretary of State's office. They have received the itemized cost of what this was. Historically, we only receive a portion returned to us from the Secretary of State. We're still waiting for the Joint Legislative Budget Committee to make determinations, and right now I've been informed they're only meeting about once a week. So we did request full amount. I think from our last conversation with Secretary of State staff and the ACO people that we might be seeing anywhere between $250,000 and $350,000. That's estimates at this time. And that is all for you guys. Some of the other information, because this is an update. 90-day notices were mailed out. Why we always talk about this is for people who receive a ballot by mail. It's a lot different than what we were doing with this election, the presidential preference election. The only people who were able to vote in the PPE were either Republicans or Democrats. For the primary election, everyone gets to vote. The difference is the difference between a closed or an open primary. So if you're an independent, party not designated, or other voter, you have the ability to request a Republican, Democrat, or not a nonpartisan ballot. You can do that using the 90-day notice or when you show up at the polls. Again, the Libertarians, Green Party, and No Labels are closed primaries. Our internal primary ballot proofing team offered some fantastic feedback to us. Again, our relationships with our stakeholders are so important, and we want to thank them for that publicly. And because of their feedback, we're going to be able to do this even better for the general election. Ballot proofs go out tomorrow to the state and county party chairs. They will receive everything, which is over 15,000 or 1,500 ballot styles. City and town clerks will receive their ballots and all of the precincts that touch them so that they can make sure that the things that happened in the 2022 primary election don't happen again. County candidates, including the one for JP, will be receiving their ballot proof. The state candidates receive theirs, and the Arizona Secretary of State's elections director will receive them. Certain candidates will receive a sampling to show that we've gotten the rotation correct also, in accordance with ARS 16464. Our move into our new building is estimated to be about the first week of June. Some other dates that I think people need to know, because this is information and we need to touch voters as many times as possible to make sure we get great voter turnout. June 15th is the UOCAVA, where we'll make sure that all of our uniform overseas citizen absentee voting act voters receive their ballot. The internal L&A in our department will be for June 21st. The SOS, where they come here, is scheduled for June 25th. Again, as stated before, we'll be in our new building that first week of June, so we'll be able to, roll out the red carpet. The last day to register to vote for the primary is July 1st, and the first day to vote early in person is July 3rd. Please remember, we are closed. It's a federal holiday for July 4th, but we'll resume after. And, of course, the primary election is July 30th. Later in today's Board of Supervisors meeting, there might be some questions about polling locations. And so want to kind of give you guys a brief synopsis of where we're at in growth in Pinal County. We are weekly tracking where we're at with our voter registration numbers and also with, the growth in Pinal County, and let you know that we've estimated it's about an 8% average growth rate across all precincts in Pinal County. What else? One final thing, we are working with our legislators and, of course, the Arizona Association of Recorders and Election Officials of Arizona. There has been some recent legislation changes. A striker bill has come out, and so I might be reaching out for some support on that. And then, of course, just a friendly reminder, in accordance with ARS 16-1019, political signs go out 71 days before the election. So just a little heads up that they go out next week. So you're going to start seeing them in all of our thoroughfares. Thank you, gentlemen, and I probably will be up here later.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Are we allowed questions?
This was informational only. Excuse me. This was informational only, similar to the county manager's report, other than going ahead and asking or directing staff to follow up on something.
Okay. Is there something you want to give direction to?
As Ms. Lewis mentioned, we're preparing for the next election. And
okay. Would you like that to be part of an agenda item that we do later?
Well, I'm curious about some things. It's, information only, but we had some problems with the PPE, and I'd like to have those addressed. Some very specific problems with the PPE I would like to have addressed.
Okay. I'll make note of that. Let's give you direction to
specifically
give us the information about that.
The returns didn't exactly balance, and I want to know how that's going to be changed and addressed for the primary election.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 8, which is discussion and updates regarding the 24 state and federal legislative sessions, including any bills, budget proposals, so on and so forth. How good are we going to come out of this, Supervisor Miller?
Well, the state, I don't have anything on the federal level. That's a snail's pace as well and really hard to figure out. But anyway, at the state level, it's also kind of slowed down with only meeting once a week, that the legislators are getting together and trying to work on the budget at the same time they're wrapping up some legislation. I've been focused on the water, and the water is being worked on today. They're taking a handful of water bills, combining them together, and voting on it on the floor to send it to the governor and to get signed. I think this strategy is nobody's going to get 100% of what they want, but if they can get 80 or 90% of what they want, they'll probably pass something here. I've been focused on the replenishment aspect of a couple of bills, which actually was tied to 1172. They've rewritten how that is going to be worded in there, but I spent some time last night with a lobbyist, and we went through the language, and it's actually a little bit better because they reference statute now in the requirements for replenishment. And I think we'll see something out of there. I know that the governor's office wants to get some kind of win at the water components of this year's legislation. So I'm optimistic that something's going to pass here today. And then when the governor signs it, I'll let everybody know. But it is a real snail's pace over there. It's hard to say from week to week what they'll focus on and move forward with. So it's a wait and see. I think there's still some distance on the budget between the governor's office and the legislators. We have CSA meeting tomorrow, and I'll probably get a little bit more information at that meeting. But that's where we're at. And just wait and see. That's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Supervisor Miller.
I see any have questions.
Is there nobody has any questions for Supervisor Miller? Okay. Purchasing Division report. There she is. Come on down, Miss Wood.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Angie Woods, Director of the Office of Budget and Finance, and it's my pleasure to provide you a brief overview of the Purchasing Division report for May 15th of 2024. The board is requested to approve one contract award for RFP 224529 for a solid waste consultant. The board is requested to approve two contract amendments exercising optional extension periods for RFP 181923 for drug testing services and RFP 182824 for firearms, accessories, and parts. There's full detail in the report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I just have a statement. I think that's the shortest report we've ever had that we're going to be voting on, which is that's pretty cool for me. Okay, any questions, anybody? Okay, do you have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Purchase Division report as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, item number 10, consent items. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a board member, county manager, or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Supervisor Surtee has asked that item number Y be pulled. Is there any others that anybody from the board here that would like to pull? Seeing that there's none, county manager, public, anybody from the public that would like to have anything pulled? Okay, seeing that there's none, do we have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve consent items A through H minus Y as presented.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's unanimous. So, Supervisor Surtee, can you tell us why? Why?
Yes, I want to get the word out because some of these new housing developments are filling up so quickly that at the time we started to set these voting locations, there weren't even any people living in at the 24 in the D.R. Horton area. And we don't know for sure, but we think there may be from 200 to 1,000 people living there already. And their closest location is going to be in Apache Junction on Southern, if you could come explain that, at Cactus Canyon. They're going to have to drive like 8 to 10 miles to vote. But then I have some information on, by 2022, I spoke with County Manager, or City Manager Bryant Powell, and both of the developments on both sides are building clubhouses there, which could, we may need one on both sides of the road. So just let those people know, that where they live and where they will vote.
Chairman Goodman, members of the board, Dana Lewis, Pinal County Recorder, we spoke in regards to what it looks like when we're redistricting. We were required to redistrict after the 2020 census, have to follow lines like congressional district, legislative district, natural formations, roads, and we had a whole team who went through this. At the time of redistricting, when we set these precincts, we knew that there was going to be a potential, at that time, subdivision here. However, just from this, when we did it with GIS, to the next heat map that you see, you can see that we've gone from that little yellow area that you see, which is the original subdivision, which didn't even have homes there. It did jump, and it's crossed the Meridian Road, is that Ironwood Drive there. So we know that's one of the reasons during my report I explained how fast we're growing, and we're monitoring it weekly. But over from say 2022 to just now in 2024, how much growth we've had. At this time, there is not a school there. There is not a church there, and there is not a community center there. So these voters will have to go all the way up, and they're going to be voting at precinct 40, I think it's junior high school.
Yes, Cactus Canyon.
Cactus Canyon Junior High. And that's where they voted during the PPE in previous elections. But yes, the big issue you would see is, maybe they could cross that road right there where all of those subdivisions are, and during a re-precincting. But that's Maricopa County, and we're going to let them have that. So we're going to continue to hope, working with the Board of Supervisors. I've said it several times during these meetings. We're approving all of these subdivisions, and I need spaces to utilize for polling locations. Pinal County is precinct-based. And so that means, wanting to stay neighborhoods and with, the people we church with, we food shop with, our kids play soccer with. This is important. This is the base of our communities. Can't do that when I don't have a facility for them to go vote. So in speaking with Mr. Surdy, I am very thankful that you've had that conversation for this subdivision here. But it will be a problem going forward.
Looking at what you're talking about, I think we're going to see the same problem.
Yeah.
You already said we've got an 8% increase in almost every district. And with all the construction and everything we've got going out in this region, it's going to be.
And that's something we need to hold developers accountable for, that if they are just building acres and acres of houses, that they do construct a community-type center that they can use for purposes like a voting center, instead of just nothing but houses. Because businesses don't have to let you in, so we do need to look at that.
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Sturdy, members of the board, to let you know, we always have a contingency plan on elections, and knowing that this is going to be an area, and there are several areas in Pinal County, quite frankly, that have exceeded the growth we were expecting when we did re-precincting, and re-precincting won't happen again until October of 2025. So what do? Well, we mitigate the problem that is at hand. We make sure we overstaff for poll workers, and then we send additional poll pads to those locations. Statute requires that we stay under a 30-minute wait time. We've never exceeded the 15-minute, and we're able to monitor that.
So in 2025, there'll be a re-precincting because you have hands-on, you know who's living where. But officially, there won't be another census until 2030, so these people won't be counted. There could be tens of thousands living there by then. Is that correct?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Surtee, that is correct. What's really great, though, it's not that they'll be counted in the census. However, as they update their voter registration information, we're aware of where they're residing at.
And as these people move in, there could be somebody moving in today that's not even hearing this conversation. How do they get registered? Do you send them something out, or is it up to the individual parties to get these folks registered?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Surtee, members of the board, it's events like this that we remind voters that they have a responsibility, that 29 days before any election, they need to be updating their voter registration. They can do so at my.arizona.vote. They can go to the recorder's website. They can go to the elections department website. There is constantly, especially during an election year like this, there's organizations out there. They can go to the Secretary of State's website to update. So that information is there. Every state does it a little bit different, and we know that we've put information in new home guides. We're out and about constantly doing voter outreach and education. So again, part of it is on the voter. And they need to remember also that if they register to vote here, they may need to unregister where they previously resided.
So, Mike, as you stated, we will be seeing a lot of this in the next several years.
Yeah. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dana, when you were up here before, I jotted down a number someplace. I can't find it, but anyway, it appears like about 2/3 of the voters are already on to receive their ballot in the mail.
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Miller, members of the board, that is correct. I always use, I round, so about 300,000 voters, and about 200,000 of those are signed up to receive a ballot via mail.
So in some ways that helps. But again, the voting poll locations has turned into a real challenge, and I suspect it's not going to get better. It's going to get more difficult going forward. So it's just something we're going to have to deal with, everyone.
Supervisor Kavanaugh, I think you had.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I have the official ballot report, Ms. Lewis, for these two areas that we were discussing, and it shows that there were 4,160 ballots distributed and 134 used. So this is one, there's about 50 reports here, 20 with errors, is it typical to have that number, that few number? And I know what the answer is, but why do we send 4,160 ballots out to the precinct when we only have 134 voters take part?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, members of the board, so not knowing exactly which precinct and not having the information that you have in front of you to talk about what we do, statute requires that we have ballots for 101% of our voters. So like we've already discussed, that if we have precinct, we're just going to use my precinct, precinct 22. Say there's 1,000 voters assigned to precinct 22, and these are just in a fantasy world right now. If there's 1,000 voters registered to vote in precinct 22, and out of the 1,000, 800 of them receive a ballot by mail. So then I want to make sure that we have enough to take care of anybody who's going to show up to vote at that location. So that's going to be over 200 ballots, correct? But we have many different precinct styles, or we have different ballot styles. So depending on who's going to show up for that type of ballot style, I need to make sure that we have stock there for everything. We oversend. Why do we oversend? Because when we don't send enough, bad things happen. So we would rather err on the side of caution than not enough.
Okay. And then the reconciliation reports show that the number of ballots used and the ballots distributed have to match. And so there were some errors with respect to the precincts we're looking at here. And how do you plan to correct those problems?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, members of the board, Elections are complex. Election day, poll workers are there sometimes over 16 hours. They have thousands of pieces of paper. They receive training, which is anywhere from 2 to 6 hours long, depending on what their online training. But there's humans involved in this process. And it doesn't matter how much tech, it doesn't matter how much support. As long as there's humans, there's always going to be human error. And I believe the more humans we have involved in our processes, the more successful we are, the more civically engaged we are. So we understand some of the errors that happened that you're seeing potentially on those official ballot reports. We're aware. We've already deemed ways to improve that statistically. But it's a human process.
Well, my concern is that we have, like this one, we have 101 ballots used and 99 distributed. So there's only an error of a couple of ballots, but on 20 different ballot reports. So that may be small, but I lost an election by 14 votes once, and that would be enough to change the results of an election. So do you plan on changing the way the form is designed to training? What is your solution?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, members of the board, again, it is a training issue. It is a people issue. We internally identified what was going on. We made notes on that. We believe that with our new vendor and how we are able to perforate our ballots that are at the polls, that'll right there remedy so much of the problem that you were seeing on those reports.
You said perforate our ballots? I didn't hear that.
Perforated.
Perforate your ballots. Tell me, what is that?
So instead of them being this giant, protocol, Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, members of the board, with the new vendor that we've brought on that we're utilizing for the primary election, instead of having a stack of ballots like that and then being shrink wrapped by 100, 500 or whatnot, they will be perforated like they used to be in the past that are numbered. One, it allows our official ballot report and to do reconciliations at a faster pace. We're able to put, of course, more than one set of eyes on that process, and then also the ability to unintentionally hand somebody more than one ballot goes away.
Okay, and then you said they're numbered on the ballot or on the stub?
On the stub.
Thank you.
Supervisor, what is your name? Supervisor McClure.
That guy. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Lewis, just for public edification, you talk about 1,500, I believe it's 1,506 ballot styles.
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor McClure, members of the board, that is correct. We have over 1,500 ballot styles going into the primary election.
And just, again, for edification, would you please tell everybody why there's not just a ballot and why it can't be so simple?
I think it goes back again to the fact that our elections are hard, and there's a lot of processes. In Pinal County, we have over 100 precincts. Every precinct, one precinct comes to mind, has 22 different precinct parts. Each one of those parts requires a ballot style, whether it's you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you are part of this school district or whether you fall under Board of Supervisor 1 or Board of Supervisor 2. All of those things are what create our ballot styles and our precinct parts, which then create all the different ballot styles. And it does make it pretty complex. Also, this last year, Arizona went from having a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian to now having no labels and the Green Party on top of nonpartisan ballots. So we have different players in the game.
Thank you. And then...
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, we are straying from the topic of polling places, so I want to remind you to bring us back to polling places.
Okay, I'll turn my left signal on here, and I'll be right there. So back to polling places. So I realize we have an issue, and we're looking at all these homes growing without the ability to have, say, a polling place. So this would go maybe to P&Z, that maybe we look at that for future developments, that we say, hey, can you could the subdivisions pool in to put some common area in?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor McClure, members of the board, I will always be the cheerleader for public spaces like that we can utilize as polling locations, especially why we continue to be precinct-based.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question, Supervisor Miller?
Well, I don't know if it
Pertains
falls under
to-
polling
Yeah.
place. You can answer the question later, but I need a definition of oversending on the ballots. But don't answer it
That'll
right
be
now.
at a different time.
At a different time.
Yeah.
So that was my question.
Okay.
But well, we're getting too wide here, but to tell a developer what he has to build might be a little touchy.
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Miller, members of the board, I will tell you when we go out to these locations where we have these developments being built, when we have reached out and asked to potentially use a model home, we've been told no. So that's also, and working with risk management to make sure we're not getting into any gray space with that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Talk about that later.
Pertaining to polls, locations?
Last time, Mr. Chairman, we were talking about polling places, and I asked if the returns balanced appropriately, the numbers balanced when your staff looked at them this election. And Ms. Lewis, you said yes, but they didn't. And I just want to make sure that if we have polling place returns.
But go ahead, Chris.
And again, I think Supervisor Kavanaugh was starting to loop that back around as to the polling place specific. Is that correct?
Right, yes.
Okay.
So how do we ensure that the polling places are set up in such a way that we can get accurate results and that you can give us solid information that we can rely upon about the returns?
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, members of the board, I think I addressed it by saying we understand it's a training issue. We understand it's a people issue. Making sure that we have polling locations that have enough area to move around in, that they are ADA compliant, that we're not consolidating too many polling locations into one where we have too many ballot styles to have to reconcile. All of that, I believe that we as a team have identified some of the issues, and again, we'll be moving forward into the primary election.
Okay, I appreciate that, and it's mistakes are made, but at a canvass vote, when we ask the question, are they accurate? And these Post-it notes represent items that are not accurate. I just want you to be forthright to the board when you're asked that question. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Okay.
No, thank you, sir.
No, thank you. So moving forward on item number Y, do we have a motion?
Good with your answer?
Yeah, my mouse just died. I got it going again. So I move we pass item number Y.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. We are now on item, where are we? 11. We're going to recess. Thank you. It went blank. Quiet from the audience out there. We're going to recess our Pinal County Board of Supervisors meeting, and now we'll open up our Pinal County Public Health Services District Board of Directors. And so we have on the agenda consent items. Is there anybody that would like any of the consent items to be pulled from the board? How about from our staff? No? Anybody from the public? Seeing that there's none, can we have a motion moving forward then?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve consent items A through E on the Public Health Services District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Okay, now we're going to go back to, and we'll reconvene our Pinal County Board of Supervisors. We'll close the Pinal County Public Health Services, and now we'll reconvene into our Pinal County Supervisors meeting. So we're going to move on to item number 12, public hearing and discussion approval, disapproval of resolution number 2024-SUP. And it looks like we have Gilbert. You going to do this? Not okay.
Good morning. Appreciate the statement. Didn't know I had an option, but yes, I'll be conducting this presentation for the tennis court. Chair, Vice Chair, board members, good morning. As said, Gilbert Olguin, Planning Manager. I'll be going through this case for you. Real quick, this case was continued at the P&Z once and then finally brought back, and they made a decision. So we will go through this. Moving forward, here we go. So the proposals for a special use permit to develop private tennis courts on GR zoning district. The property in question is 3.46 acres. It's about half a mile east of the Royce Road along Phillips Road. The applicant is Rafael Font de Mora. He's the owner. Jessica Sarkeesian is the applicant for the case. This map gives you some perspective of where it's at. It's right real close to Queen Creek, to the northern portion of the county. The red star obviously is the location of the project. This is a vicinity map. It gives you more perspective as to where it's at. The purple represents the larger lots, the property that it's on, different colored lots, and then you have more subdivisions to the north. Aerial map gives you more perspective. This area has some large lots that are around it. And like I said before, it gives you good perspective as to all the subdivisions that exist to the north. Hunt Highway, you see that red line to the north up there, gives you more perspective as to where it's at. Case map, this just shows you the property in question, more details in regards to how it lays out. It's quite a long property, has a lot of room. Another perspective map. This map shows you the 600-foot buffer that staff followed to reach out to everybody within that red line. Everything touching it and everything within was called out for this meeting. They also had a neighborhood meeting that was 1,200 feet that goes beyond this red line. It's almost double, if you will. And we do that for all cases. Site plan. So the property, as you see, there's a current home on the property, and to the southern portion of the property is where they want to have the tennis courts. There is currently some type of concrete / pickleball court of some kind that's already in existence in the front. I just call it pickleball just because it looks like that. But as you go down the property, this shows you I believe it's a potential swimming pool. It does lay out some parking to accommodate this use. So this case has had a lot of public outcry. You've received the letters of non-support. At both meetings we had with P&Z, they did show up and they did voice their opinion to deny the case. Our focus was specifically on the use and the applicability of the use. So tennis courts, it's some people want them, some don't. In this case, the gentleman wants to not just have them, but he wants to also run his business of teaching people how to play the sport. We have added an additional 3 stipulations to this case to accommodate some concerns that came from the public, and that included some mitigation for the noise that this produces, because we did have some people that live adjacent to this and I believe to the south of this that came out with some concerns that this is going to be a noisy use, and it's going to cause additional issues in the future for those that live around it. But as you see in front of you, the project does show you it has access. It has 2 ways in. It has set parking stalls to accommodate those that come, and plenty of room to grow if ever need so. This is a close-up, gives you more perspective. As I said earlier, this is a proposed pool. It is not there today, but I believe the court, the slabs are there. There is a casita that is going through the process to be permitted per the current code. There are existing sheds, and you'll read in your comments. There was comments in regards to them being used to be lived in. That isn't the case anymore, and we made it very clear in this meeting and our report that those are not allowed to be used for said use for homes or for people to stay overnight. I believe one of the steps goes into more detail. I believe it's 22 gives them more detail as to why those are going to stay as storage sheds, and that's it. But the case, as I said, it received a lot of staff attention and public attention. This image shows you the actual area where it's at. So your standard views to the north. And then you have this image to the south of where the property's at. To the east and to the west. And the intent here for the audience as well is just to give you some perspective as to where this is going at. As you can see, there's room in these areas for this type of use. So items for consideration, the tennis facility, permitted use in GR with special use permit. This is a private use of the property for private tennis lessons. So I will say it out loud that this is going to be a business that he's going to run as allowed per the code. Our special area plan designation is rural living and supports the proposed use. Landscape buffers along the south, east, west of the tennis courts are going to mitigate noise, and they are going to do that as per the STIPs. And that was added after the meeting with I should say during the meeting with the P&Z when they made a decision. We also put in this case that they're not allowed to have any night lighting, which is usually a point of contention for those that live around the area. So they've agreed from the very beginning they won't do any night lighting. After granting the special use permit, the applicant would be required to apply for a site plan so we can solidify his parking and all that goes with it. We have 23 stipulations. We have staff did, I believe, recommend approval. This is the P&Z did as well, and there's 23 steps. So it was 20 in the beginning, but it ended up at 23. I'm here to answer more questions if you like. The applicant is here to answer questions. I'm not sure if there's anybody here for the public hearing, but
any questions from the board members of our staff? Okay. Is Jessica's here? Does she have a presentation that she wants to do?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Jessica Sarkissian, Upfront Planning, representing Phillips Tennis. Thank you so much. And so I have a presentation for you. Just to clarify, so I know the neighbors sometimes, for some reason, we keep getting an old site plan. The casita shown on the plan has been reduced per code, so we're not trying to exceed code or anything like that. As Gilbert mentioned, this case is specifically for the tennis courts. We're not talking about anything else, but we have agreed to 23 stipulations, a majority of which are already code. But we just want to reiterate that for the residents around it to make them more comfortable. If I can get it to work. Okay. So here is the aerial again, as he mentioned. You can see it's one of the large lots south of the subdivisions. It is over close to 3.5 acres. Where should I be pointing it? There we go. So here you can see again, it is existing house. There was an existing casita on the site, which is on the east side, which was a little dilapidated. So they've gone in and tried to fix it up. They're already in the process of building permits for that, just to fix the casita. That has absolutely nothing to do with this site again, because the casita is permitted in this without that. Here you can see it's the general rural zone, as mentioned. You can see the surrounding areas of zoning. These are some site photos. The owner had put in the tennis courts, which I believe, looking through code several times, private tennis courts for personal use are permitted. The request here is for him to use it for tennis instruction. He's a former tennis pro, teaches professional tennis people. This is not recreation. This is not day camp use. This is not putting out flyers to try to get neighborhood kids. These are select days and times. And so he had put this in for his own personal use and then wanted to bring in people to train. And so the use permit is for this training of people to be on the site for commercial use while we're keeping the GR zone.
Mr. Chair, may I just ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I see here that they want to have 2 courts, but it looks like in that one picture that there's already a court there.
That's as I mentioned, he put in 2 courts previously already. So what you see on these pictures, there is nothing in excess of what is already there because he had put it in for personal use. The use permit is specifically to have people come on site that are not his friends or family. So there's nothing expanding beyond this. We put the pool in there just because it's wanting to show a lot, greatest impact in the future whenever he decides to put a pool in, even though a pool doesn't require a use permit for his own private use. But we were showing it just so you could see what the future would be. So this is there were several neighborhood meetings previously. Another architect was involved, and I came in later on after, because they were doing this kind of grand scale thing, which wasn't really the intention. So we came back, and I helped out in scaling it down a bit. This was the neighborhood meeting on site showing the proposed use reduced from, they were showing all kinds of courts. Architects get excited. They start drawing their master plans. And so we took it back to what he just really needs, which is his private residence and 2 courts. And so this is on site. You can even see some of the storage sheds that in the back. This is in his backyard. We had November 21st. This is the second meeting. The first one was held by somebody else, so this was the most recent one. Am I not angling this right? So here you can see the updated site plan. You can see the casita has been scaled down quite a bit. That's based on code, maximum allowance of a casita based on the existing house. And so you have the existing house here. You can see the storage sheds. They're just showing a site plan of what's existing on the site. And you can see the proposed pool, the 2 tennis courts, the casita that's to remain. And then for anybody showing up for, because he does intend to eventually have maybe a couple people stay overnight for professionals when they're off circuit. They come in during the week and train with him for a few days or maybe a week. Those people might be staying there. So he maybe 1 or 2 people. And so that's what the parking is for. It's required for, and you have guests, so you don't park in his personal driveway. So there's extra parking there. And you can kind of see the situation of things here. So there will be no outdoor lighting on the tennis courts, maximum of 1 to 4 clients at a time with restricted hours. This is in the special use permit. So here you can see summer hours are Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then again from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then winter hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11, and then from 3 to 6 on Saturday mornings. And this is in these are per the special use permit. He may not exceed this number of clients. I know there's a lot of discussion with the neighbors thinking how many people are going to be there because of the casita and whatever. But these are in the use permit. He may not exceed 1 to 4 clients, or he would be in violation of the SUP, and these times of days as well. Traffic Impact Act statement said it would not be able to expand into additional uses or buildings, and the traffic impact statement said is within the reason of the area and meets the intention of this area. There's no issues with driving back and forth with that number of clients on the time. And it would be occasional. It wouldn't be every one of those days. It's as he's in town. He does travel. He is here today. He flew in. He's out training actually in China and then Barcelona and Spain. And so he flew in today to make sure he was here for any questions you may have for him. But it's similar to the same situation. If he's out training in other areas, he may not be at the site during all the time, Monday through Friday, 52 weeks a year. So again, here is the existing site. So the tennis courts are existing. They're not expanding. These pictures were before. He's actually, since the Planning Commission hearing, he's very excited to get going on this stuff. He's actually already put the sound panels against which you'll see pictures of, against the chain link, and raised some of the chain link as well to make sure he's making the neighbors happy.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I interject a question?
Absolutely.
Could you roll back to that previous slide? There's 4 what look like little sheds there with presumably fake grass in front of them. Could you explain what those are?
Yeah, I'll have pictures also close up of those, but those are simply sheds.
They're what sheds?
They're just sheds. And he has, and I'll show you pictures of what's inside them and what they look like up close and everything. And they each, oh, thank you so much, Mike. They each have an air conditioning unit, which he's willing to take out, but he has his stuff in there. When he was there, living there, he had his office in there, which you'll see. There's boxes and tennis equipment and all kinds of stuff. He's got other ones where he's not currently living at the site because he wasn't been able to operate. So currently, a lot of his stuff is in the sheds from his house while he's renting it out until this gets finished in the site plan. But I'll show you what those are. And he just really wanted to make them look nice. I mean, he just bought 4 of the same sheds. So, and I'll show you what that is. And that's per code. He would not, we put it as a stipulation, but you're not allowed to have anybody living in those. That's not allowed. There's no water hookup to them. There's no kitchen facilities. It's a shed with a storage. You'll see. Made sure I take pictures of that directly for you. And as part of the Planning Commission, this is what we were going off of. So he actually did more than what we had talked about. But the green is planting of oleanders, which will grow up to a larger shed and actually work better with sound mitigation around the site. And then the orange is for sound paneling, which you'll see on the site. So he's actually already he already has paneling around the whole, all the courts already, which you'll see. But he still would be putting in the oleanders after the fact. And you can see the separation between, and we did that on that side because of the closeness of that neighbor. The house is much further away, but we're closer to that neighbor's side. So here you can see the existing photos, what we were talking about. So the goal is to get oleanders similar to that fencing. Here is the exact existing site. You can see he's already extended the fence in certain areas up higher and started putting the sound paneling in. The other site some of them needs to be replaced already due to wind issues on one side. But this is what exactly to help mitigate sound if people were to be using the site. So I'm just going to go through some photos so you can get a better idea. This includes some of the sheds and what the existing lights looks like in the front and around the side. So you can see how it's not an impactful use. There's no lighting. It's not truly noticeable from the road. It's very minimal. Okay, so here let me go through the pictures. Okay, here's the shed pictures. You can see what this looks like. So they're they look very nice, like a front porch kind of thing, but it's a shed that you would buy at Home Depot and put out there, and he just makes them look nice because it's right next to his house. And so we'll show you the pictures, what it looks like inside as well, and what's in there. And you can see how close, these are the shed area, and you can see even from the sheds how close the nearest neighbor is and what your yard. It's all chain link on that side. So here's one of the sheds. You can see it's got like a thing, kind of loft thing up there, whatever, but it's got like just stuff. It's got treadmills, it's got shed, it's got his old fridge that he's not using right now because they're leasing out their house. Tennis balls, just stuff is thrown up there. The other one has like trucks and cars. This is the question that all the neighbors were wondering about. So they were stating that there were people living in there currently, and I'm just showing what is in there. It's stuff. It's a shed. It's basically what I have in my shed and all that stuff. So it's just stuff piled up, and you can see in that one, it's even got tools stacked in front of the door and everything.
My shed has dust.
I'm sure there's dust in these too. And then you can see this is the fence line against on the west side. So the fence, the chain link is not adjacent to, so that's leaving the fence line for the oleanders to go in place in the future for irrigation and things like that as well. And you can see the paneling along there as well. Again, these are looking at the adjacent neighbors from that property. They're not directly looking at the tennis courts. It's much further back. You can see in the bottom left picture. I'm standing at the gate to get into the tennis courts, and you can see how far away the house is from there.
Do you have a time frame on those oleanders when they anticipate putting those in immediately, or?
Well, he's not currently residing on the site, so we'd have to go through site plan process.
Okay.
But his current lease is for a year that someone else is there. But he would be working through the process to get the irrigation in, and then there's we specify in the stipulations the size of the oleanders and spacing to make sure that they have the ability to grow, and so they wouldn't be like the tiny little guys. I can't remember if it was 5 gallon or what size. It's in the stipulation. Oh,
I
there we go.
guess my question pertains to Gilbert while you're there. Let's say assumes that this moves forward. He's still got to go through the site plan and all that, right? It's from our understanding. Is there time frames that, so right now, even if this is approved, he still couldn't do any lessons or anything in this facility until he took care of all the other issues? Is that safe to assume?
Chairman, you're looking at me, so I'll answer the question.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was looking at both of you, but you probably are the one that is going to say, yeah, this is going to be done, and then she got to do it.
Yeah, they're not allowed to even start the process of having lessons until the site plans have been approved, and then if there's any permits that are triggered, that has to be also taken care of. But when the site plan has been established, now mind you, this is a simple site plan. It won't be as complicated as a commercial site plan.
Yeah.
Then that's when we would ask him to put in the oleanders, and I believe it is mentioned. I believe in number 15 gallon, and they're 5 feet apart. And as mentioned earlier, staff and the commission, and also with the help of the applicant, Jessica, we went through and vetted through how this would work and tried to mitigate the best solution possible to accommodate the gentleman and trying to make sure that we provided some level of not just security, but noise mitigation to accommodate the noise that this would bring.
Yeah, I looked at the site a little bit, what you said, and the doghouse I have to go to whenever I'm in trouble is this is a lot nicer than that doghouse I got to go to. But I couldn't sleep, yeah.
There was talk about a pickleball court in the front. That's no longer a possibility, and he agreed to remove that per
Okay. All right.
meeting that we had.
That answers some of the questions I might have, so there might be more. Okay.
Yes, so these are just sites, existing, these were taken last week, I believe. I'm just letting you guys know what it looks like. So there's the existing casita, going through the permits on, it's not, getting windows, roof fixed, all that kind of stuff. Here's the tennis courts out there, what they look like, the fencing again, the blocking of the views into it, and there's nothing, just the whole remainder of the site. These are this picture back here is on the bottom right is me standing from the back property line, what people see, from the side. So you can see it's quite a bit away. These are the public hearing signs. Just wanted to get you a picture of what it looks like from the front. It still looks like a house. The tennis court, the pickleball court net has been removed. It is just a slab in front now with the pickleball stuff on it, but that's off. And here's pictures again, just to see what looking around again. I wanted to make sure you understood, because I know neighbors were concerned about this turning into a commercial area. This is restricted again as kind of the types of use, how it operates. And again, per what we're showing you, this is not expanding beyond basically what you're already seeing, because there are sheds that are allowed to be on site, a tennis court, which he already had in a casita. So we're trying to just get it so he could personally teach some tennis lessons. And then these were just some things in the area. I just wanted to notice that the public hearing notice was up in time. I'm wondering, not sure if neighbors are going to say this, but it says it was posted on 5/15, which is obviously not true because today is 5/15. And so it was just written incorrectly, but everything has been up there and the staff did it on time and stuff like that. So just showing evidence of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys what the site actually is. And he is looking for just to simply, as if you would do swim instructions or horse riding lessons on your site. He's using his existing house with a tennis court in the back with stipulations and restrictions on the hours of operation, number of people, and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
okay. All right. No other questions? Okay. This is a public hearing, and so I'm going to open it up for public hearing right now. I have a card from Barbara Siegel.
My name is Barbara Sligel. Chairman Goodman and members of the board. My husband and I attended the first two meetings with the planning department, and we have voiced our objections to this training facility. There were many unanswered questions at that time, and we still have unanswered questions. Even though the Planning Commission passed the request with stipulations, how can we as neighbors make sure that these stipulations are carried out? We feel that Mr. DeMora can't be trusted. As the old saying goes, it is easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Why is Mr. DeMora given a free pass when he knowingly built tennis courts and dormitories without getting the required permits? When he got caught in his lie, he then claimed that the outbuildings were doghouses, chicken coops, and storage. I enclosed with my letter that I sent to the board. There was a real estate listing. He had put the house on the market. And in that real estate listing, it said that there was 2 pro tennis ball courts, 1 pro pickleball court, and 4 separate bunkhouses with AC. So how can we make sure that these are not going to be used as dormitories in the future? Our objections remain the same: increased traffic, noise from the tennis training facility, and running a business in a residential neighborhood. Even though we do not live close to this residence, we are still concerned what the impact will be on our neighborhood. We feel that the quality of life has diminished in this area, and we are working to preserve the integrity of this community, keeping and maintaining a more rural lifestyle. By allowing high-density housing, businesses, and residential neighborhoods, this rural lifestyle is becoming a thing of the past. For those that have lived, of us that have lived out for many years, we are very saddened to have this rural area taken away from us. We remain vehemently opposed to the special use permit. We are asking you for your assistance in this matter to maintain our rural lifestyle and keeping businesses out of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Welcome.
your taking the time. Okay, is there any others that would like to speak in public? This is a public hearing, so if that's the only card I had. Okay. All right. Close the public hearing. Thank you. My conscience to my right. Is there any further discussion by any of the board members? Any questions? Supervisor Kavanaugh?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if the board has a copy of that listing, but it does say, and we have to ask Mr. Keller maybe if we should even consider it, the 4 separate 126-foot bunkhouses. Has this been provided to the board, or am I the only one that has it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Why would we?
Well,
I haven't seen it.
okay. So it does say 2413 West Phillips Road, Queen Creek.
What's the date on it?
Mr. Chair, quick question. Is the home still listed for sale, or is this an old listing?
I believe that was an
I
old
think
listing.
it's an old listing.
Old listing.
What number?
This is from December of 23, so.
Presently, the home is leased, so it's not for sale now. It's off the
Correct.
market.
It's I believe he has it as a rental, but I wanted to make a statement if I may.
You bet.
21 steps that are on your guys' list for this case. It says the 4 storage sheds on the property as shown on the plot plan, excluding the proposed casitas, shall be used for storage purposes only and shall not be used for the occupancy in violation of the Pinal County Department Services Code as determined by the Community Development Director or designee. Such determination shall result in the revocation of the special use permit in court enforcement action. Now, that being said, that step was added because of this concern. Our code covers that. They're not allowed to do that without permits, and there's obviously the casita is one thing, but this was a concern. This issue was brought up, and we always value public comments. Anything they have to say, we try to listen to them. But we added this when we didn't need to, just to solidify that we're focused on the use of the courts, and that's it. They cannot use those sheds, very nice sheds that you showed, for anything but storage.
So no office use, no residential, nothing?
No, nothing. And matter of fact, any electrical or plumbing, even if it's under 200 square feet, triggers a permit. So one could argue specifically that if you have an AC under, it might trigger a permit. But we're focused on that. We understand that. And that was vetted through the commission. The commission voted 9-1, 9-4, 1 against. And this case went on for quite a while to try to find a happy medium to allow the gentleman to have courts on a large lot where he could teach. And as you saw, the specifics were mentioned in the report. Yes, sir.
Supervisor Miller.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Is he done?
Yes. He just shook his head.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do SUPs, I don't want to say all the time, but we do a lot of SUPs. How do we enforce any of them?
Typically,
Typically, somebody
it's the
turns them in.
neighbors. Correct.
Somebody will
Yes, and
say,
yes.
and as soon as they do,
Yep, we're on
it's
it.
over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
then they lose that SUP is
Yes,
revoked.
yes. And the applicant was told this at the meeting. He's here today. And that was reiterated many a times because we understand the concern and how noisy it can be. But we looked at everything that was brought to us, all the comments, statements, what you've shown us earlier. And we tried to allow him to do his business, but under the guise of our rules. And he's willing to do a site plan, which is nice at an additional cost to provide park. I mean, it's a lot more than, it's a residential use, and he wants to have lessons. I mean, so with a lot thought and the process was put into this, and also from the applicant and our commission. So we think we've addressed that issue with the housing, but it's at the pleasure of the commission.
Okay.
Sorry, the board.
One more question. Has he ever lived in the house at all?
Thank you, Chairman, board members. Yes, he has lived in the house the entire time, except for recently. He listed the house for sale during the first initial neighborhood meetings when it wasn't looking so well. And then, of course, the realtor got excited, and they list things that are not even legal. Half the time we get calls from real estate agents saying, can I even do this? And they don't know. And so they had all kinds of stuff listed in there, and it's been taken down. It was removed. But yeah, no, he recently moved out, I believe a month or two ago. It was right around when the commission was, because he wasn't able to make a living in there. And so he leased it out and has been traveling doing tennis lessons since then. So that's why all his stuff is in the storage sheds. And everything is kind of getting piecemeal done because he has lived there. He intends to live there. It's just, so he won't be doing tennis lessons until the lease is up and we can go through the site plan process and get everything up to date.
Who discovered he was doing tennis lessons?
I believe it was come out. It actually came out because they did a neighborhood meeting, and so the neighborhood meeting with the first architect when they were going through the process, and the neighborhood meeting went out, and that's how people found out about it. And I believe they've been discussing with the neighbor previously.
So he pretty much is the one that prompted it.
Yes.
I mean, I know a person that has a tennis court and gives lessons. It's in their backyard. It's in a subdivision.
I didn't hear that.
years
Right?
ago. And I'm like, I don't know. Nobody ever got too excited about that.
Right.
It wasn't like
It's
it
a
wasn't common
self-imposed.
knowledge. So anyway, but all SUPs. I mean, we always have all these stipulations. How do we enforce any of them? One, we hope that the applicant obeys the request by the county that these stipulations are enforced, self-enforced. And if they're not, then we'll just have to revoke it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Seeing any other discussions or any other questions? All right. Board's prerogative.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 12 as presented with the 23 stipulations.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
So the ayes have it. Okay. On to the next items. Before we proceed with items, is it 12? No. It's item 13 through 15. All right.
13, 14.
I need to read this. After careful review of this item, I have a potential conflict of interest, and we'll be memorializing this in a letter to our clerk. And because of that, I am going to be recusing myself, and I'll be turning the time over to our vice chair to handle the next three items. Thank you.
And Chairman, if I may.
Do I need to step down or just
shush?
Yes.
The
Oh.
clerk, looking at you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Chairman, you do need to step down from the dais. But also, just for the record, if I can state that pursuant to ARS and also the board rules, I am in receipt of your email that you sent, further confirming that you are declaring a conflict
All right.
on these items.
I'm going to relinquish my power then.
Hand me the gavel, baby. Oh, thank you. All right. Item Item 13, and I'm going to guess 13, 14, and 15 are all going to be heard at once in a public hearing. It's not in my script, but Mr. Olguin, proceed, please.
It's still good morning.
Yeah, whatever.
Members. Vice Chair. I will give the presentation for the next case. I did receive an email for a letter of support from the clerk. It is for this case. Represents all three of the applications that are being talked about today. And it is from Fortis, and it's Russell Posky. That's my best guess. But it says, I believe you have a copy of it, but I was given this as we were coming up to the meeting. Okay, here we go. So, as mentioned, this is for three cases. It's for a non-major comprehensive plan amendment, a rezone, a planned area development, and it's to allow for the development standards for a mixed-use development, more specifically apartments and commercial. The size of the property is 16.9 acres. Location is southwest of Bella Vista Road and north of Gansel Road. Owner and applicant. The owner is Langley Bella Vista, LLC, and the applicant is Jordan Rose, Rose Law Group. This one as well is up in the very corner of our location here in Pinal County. The red star represents the property in question. There we go. This gives you a better view, better perspective of the actual 16.9 acres of land, and its proximity. It's right there on a major arterial roadways. Here's a aerial map that gives you the same perspective, but gives you what homes are around it. There's properties essentially all to the south on both sides, subdivisions, and it's vacant to the north, and also the property that's catty corner, that currently is commercial and also apartments. Here's a site plan to give you a better perspective of how this is supposed to lay out. So they've reserved the very front of the property that's, it's essentially about 4 acres of commercial, and the rest of it is for the apartment complex. And it shows you points of access off of the major collector, which is the Gansel and Bella Vista. So there is an access point that cuts through the A2A property on Bella Vista, and there's another one that does cut through over to Gansel. This property is essentially one contiguous. It breaks up a little bit, but it is pretty much a connected 3-story structure, or I should say structures. And I believe there's a perspective that gives you more. In the front here, you can see the commercial that would be proposed on this project. But this gives you a good layout of the parking, and but this line here just represents the actual apartment complexes here and also here. Here's an image to the north to give you perspective. Like I said, everything to the north of this area is not built out yet. I believe there's also state land to the north on this of the property. Here's an image to the south. Another image here that gives you perspective to the east. And here's one of the west. So items of consideration. Multifamily commercial projects do generate large volumes of traffic, noise, which will impact the roadways and the communities nearby. Staff has received opposing letters for this case. This morning, recently we received one for support. I believe there's others as well. The proposed project is 3 stories. Mitigation strategy is lacking to provide buffering for the 3-story apartments in this area. There are no other 3-story structures in this area, which was a concern of staff. And there's, as mentioned, really not much mitigation to accommodate the noise it's going to generate to those around it. We have recommended denial for the case. I believe the P&Z also recommend denial for the case. The stipulations, you have them in front of you if it gets approved. On this case, as you know, we bring multifamily for your review, and we have had success in many occasions with multifamily. So this case, the property, I'll go back to the image.
Maybe.
Yes, in theory. Here we go. So the corners here are both commercial. This is about 16 acres as well, and this is 16 acres as well. Staff, when we looked at this property, we try to focus on not losing commercial, as with other cases, the Home Depot, the Winco, other cases that brought potential apartments. Those have been successful with here in the county, obviously, with your approval, are the ones that typically try to mitigate strategies to accommodate any mitigation issues that might be presented. We were lacking that on this case. It can be a good case. This is a case with a lot of potential. But this case was brought to us, and it just went straight to the P&Z, which is okay with us. But we would like, we think there's potential for this case, and it's up to the commission, to the board members, if they wish this to be remanded back to the P&Z so we can further discuss possibilities to make this successful. But our biggest contention here was lack of commercial. We'd like to keep more commercial if possible and work to have a better solution, but it's up to the board in regards to that.
Thank you, Mr. Ilgen. Are there any questions? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You made a statement I have a hard time grasping. Because it's a 3-story apartment building, it's going to make more noise than what?
I apologize. That's not what I meant to say.
Okay.
It's the impact of a 3-story structure that we had concerns with. And a lot of the places like the one that just recently went up, which is Stella Apartments, they broke apart that. They did 3 stories in the middle, 2 stories on the side. That would help with the impact that this would have on the area. Also, the bigger point of contention, I would say, was just the loss of services in the area for this commercial corner.
Well, I understand that it's been zoned commercial for over 20 years.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, businesses know if something's going to happen. I just try to understand. I mean, that's not our decision to make.
Correct.
I mean, if that was the hot spot for commercial, it'd have been zapped up already. It had some commercial on it. I appreciate the fact that they're leaving, 4 acres for some potential. But, I mean, these people have done their marketing study. They know what they, what's going to turn dollars on this property, and to sit idle for 20 years, I think we need to leave it to the capitalists to figure out what's best, and it sounds like they have a plan. So I don't know. I think putting something on here is better than letting it sit vacant for another 20 years, wondering if some other business might come along someday. And Jeff Bezos has fixed all the retail in America as of right now. You don't have I'm going to have to explain to my great-grandchildren what a store is. That's some place where they used to have goods where you could go and pick them up. They'll never understand that. So, because it can get delivered to your house. I just think that we have to really kind of be aware of the market change. And I think these people know what they're doing when they see this opportunity. So, okay. I don't know there's a question there, but
well, it was a statement question kind of thing. Okay, so Supervisor Surdy.
Along the same line of questioning, Gilbert, on this map, is it possible to zoom out? Commercial doesn't always work if it's on the edge. Are there tens of thousands of people living to the south of here, or is this the edge?
Board Member Surdy, so there's subdivisions that go to the south. This is off of, I believe it's Bella Vista and Gansel, so there's quite a few homes that go to the south of this image. I think the perspective map might.
Like retail kind of moves to where the need is, and if there's nothing there, then retail won't come.
Yeah, I don't have it. I thought I had an aerial image that would
That
show
looks
you.
pretty barren.
There we go. Yeah, that's the best I have in regards to the map you're asking for. This shows you the houses that are there. Across the corner where the same amount of commercial, that's starting to fill up
Community College, just north of here, and then the supervisor. Mr. Co-Chairman or Vice Chairman, Mr. Surtee, there is residential development throughout to the west, to the south. The one that I was going to point out to Gilbert is one of the largest communities that we currently have under construction in Pinal County is just to the right of this picture, which is called Bella Vista Farms, which the first phase of that, which was owned by Eldorado Holdings, about 2/3 of that is under construction right now. And then W Holdings owns the property around that. That's about 5,000. It's more than 5,000 homes, and we think that absorption is going to occur in the next 5 to 10 years. The initial phase that is Eldorado's piece, we think that absorption is going to occur in the next 3 to 4 years. So it's already building out. So there's a substantial amount of residential around this area.
So being a retailer, I was trying to get a view of where do these people shop now? And do they need to shop right here? Or can they get gas and food somewhere nearby? Then there would be no need to make this completely commercial.
From the images that we looked at yesterday, I mean, the Fry's is directly to the west. But as I was going to tell you, there was plans to do like a quick trip, Speedway type of store in the corner. The Federal Credit Union is going right across. So the commercial's starting to fill out because there's also a multifamily project that was approved in 2018 that exists right catty corner of this, but that's a one-story, I think, build-to-rent type of unit. So once again, staff isn't against multifamily at all. Staff thinks it's needed in this area, specifically on arterial. It's just that we think more commercial is viable on this corner. And as you said, sir, we're probably wrong, but from what we've seen in the past, it's
how many acres does a quick trip type business require?
I believe it's 1.5 to 2.5 acres, depending on the type of template they use. Because some of them, they now start to build the large lots with the 18 pumps in the front C-store and the car wash. So if they do the car wash, you're looking at about 3.5 to 4.
Which is what they're leaving.
I believe it's just they show us one. Well, the image they gave us was just it'd be a drive-through, and it'd be I believe a retail shop of some kind. But it's conceivable that maybe commercial could work on the property.
Thank you.
Supervisor Kavanaugh, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talked about the height, and I think 35 feet is the height that's allowed in the area already. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's correct. It's 3 stories.
Will these 3-story apartments exceed that?
They can't, so they'll have to build it to what the...
So in that picture there on the upper left, that's a school, and that's, I think, 2.5 stories, and the gym maybe is a height of 3 stories. So I'm not sure that the visual impact argument holds a lot of weight. And I think we have to disregard in this instance much of what the P&Z said for one principal reason. It may have been inadvertent, but one of the board members said they'd like to buy the property. I don't know what the context was, but that concerns me. I don't know if it was a joke or it was serious, but I think in fairness to the applicant, we just ought to look at the facts in front of us. I think the commission raised concerns about parking. Is there ample parking here?
So as mentioned with the applicant, that's focused on at the site plan. They have to build it per what the code requires. So there was talk about maybe changes to it, but no, it has to follow what our ordinance says. You can't use the PAD to manipulate the standards or make them less. They have to. The code doesn't let you do that. So whatever's approved today has to follow the standards per the parking requirements.
So that question is there enough parking in this site?
So there will be.
There would be.
Yes, there would be if this was to be approved.
The only issue that I've seen and the visual impact was just that it was just a brick of buildings. That's the biggest issue here. Anyone?
The other option that we talked about was, or that would help, is to provide some buffering from the commercial noise that was going to be created if that is approved.
What is directly east of this? There was a kind of a void area there. You had it in a...
The east?
Yeah, that right. Yeah, just
here.
That down, right up, right there, that blank dirt.
I do not know what that is. Okay, it's a drainage channel.
Drainage channel. Okay, so quite a bit of buffer there. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Olguin? The applicant is here. Thank you, Mr. Olguin. Ms. Rose, how are you?
Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the board, for your records, I'm Jordan Rose with Rose Law Group, and with me today is Eric Omedal, who's a partner with Real Estate Equities, and Eric Schweikert, Ian Schweikert, and Jennifer Ruby with Langley Properties, the underlying landowner, Paul Basha, our traffic engineer, and Jennifer Hall with Rose Law Group. Thank you so much for the staff report, and thanks for pulling this up. Just a couple things to put into perspective. This has been marketed as commercial for, a couple decades. You can see to the north of the property, it's all state land. It's just, it's very vacant. 16 acres of commercial at this site doesn't make much market sense, and that's been proven because they can't get the market to react. But that said, 4 acres of commercial makes all the sense in the world, and they have lots of interest from commercial developers. What you're talking about is all very possible on the site, coffee shop, quick trip, whatever it is. And just to make a couple other comments, this is incredibly well buffered. You can see there's 400 and 500 feet to the closest homes because of these drainage channels and open space. The 3-story buildings are on a very small space. This is only 12.9 acres, and they're beautifully architectured to be an agrarian theme, which I'll show you in a second. In addition to that, the connectivity between the 4 acres of commercial and the apartments will allow for people to work and play right in that that small area.
Ms. Rose, may I interrupt you?
Yes.
Supervisor Surdy, if you look at the picture you just had.
Oh, yes, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, that did give some perspective.
Yes,
for sure.
and
Yes.
if you look right under the inn in Santan, that's the Fry's over there, just for your reference. And then Home Depot is not too far from that, and Walmart's right up there someplace. So just as a reference.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. In fact, this is so close to other major commercial that it will fail as a large-scale commercial site. And the other 2 projects that were mentioned, Bella Vista and the W Holdings project, they have commercial built into those projects too. So this just, because of the state land to the north, it's not going to become hugely dense right there for a very long time. This also provides workforce housing with luxury amenities to this area. So we're trying to attract more commercial, but we need a place for people to live, and this will definitely do that. I'll show you here. Real Estate Equities has been doing this for a very long time. In fact, they opened Copa Flats in April of last year. They had a 1,000-person waiting list. The architecture there is very different than the architecture here, but the concept and the market, the demographic is between $40,000 and $80,000 a year. That's what the people that will live here make. These are some of the jobs that those people have. They're important jobs. They're jobs that we want to attract to the county. They're jobs, frankly, that are in those retail sites. We don't certainly want people, working in retail at the county and having to live elsewhere. So you can see the setbacks are extreme on this site, which is another reason why we think this really melds well in the area, 400 and 500 feet. And this new commercial on the corner is going to be a benefit to everyone. The other thing is, if the site remains commercial at 16.9 acres as it is today, the traffic study shows that would be 7,500 to 9,500 more trips per day than if we modify and right-size the commercial to the 4 acres and then the 12 acres that were remaining. So it's less traffic than what's today. It's also the same height as what is approved today, so it's not getting any bigger, and it's less noisy. I mean, here's the agrarian architecture, which they spent a lot of time doing. They've redesigned the site many times, and this last iteration, I think, is very in keeping with the area. The clubhouse, the fitness center, and so there'll be essential workers living here with luxury amenities, decrease in vehicle trips per day. It's a gated community. It's professionally maintained. The big box that could go there, if somehow the market allowed it to, would certainly be noisy for those residential neighbors. And then it respects the agrarian theme and the history of the area. Same height as it is today. Approved, and then I would just take any questions. And I really appreciate your leadership and your support. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rose? None? All right. Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and we will be hearing 13, 14, and 15 together. Are there any from the public that care to speak? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Here we go. So, I guess at this point we're looking for a motion here on, we'll take these separately, item 13.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 13 as presented with no stipulations.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 14. Can I get a motion on 14, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 14 with 2 stipulations.
Second.
Before I could say it. Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item 15. Motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 15 as presented with 21 stipulations.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. That concludes that.
McClure presiding as chairman. Just for the record, because the opposition was not stated, just further confirming that there was absolutely no opposition on any of those cases.
Confirmed.
There was no opposition that I could hear.
Thank you.
Thank you. I shall now pass the gavel back to Chairman Goodman. If you run by, I'll catch up. Kind of like a relay.
All right. We're on item number 16. Okay, item number 16. Let's see. Development or discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution number 051524CD, and we've got Brother Billingsley.
Chairman Goodman, members of the board, this item's pretty straightforward, however important. What you have in front of you today is a resolution to grant a waiver. Question is probably, why a waiver and what is this for? We had a developer come to us a few months ago who owns a piece of property that he would like to develop as a single-family subdivision. Subdivision was zoned over 20 years ago, and they actually moved forward with a tentative plat over 20 years ago to develop homes. The location for this potential project is called Black Butte. It's just south of Central Arizona College and north of McCartney Road, west of Overfield Road. And the developer ran into a challenge, and that was our code, specifically Title III, doesn't allow septic systems, traditional septic systems, to be used on lots smaller than 1 acre. And that very much limits their ability to move forward and develop that and have profitability because their intent is to have about 12,000 square foot lots. And one of the real mitigating factors in this is they have their assured water supply, specifically I think for 122 homes. So we've been working with them. This is a solution that we've come up with, is bringing a waiver before the board to allow us to move forward and allow them to design and implement what are called alternative septic systems. Traditional septic system, you have an outfall from the house, it then goes into a tank, where the solids are separated, treatment occurs, then there's an outfall where the water then goes to leach lines or to a wet well, where further treatment occurs as that water matriculates down through the subsurface to ultimately get to the aquifer. The reason why the 1 acre rule exists is it's a generalization from the Arizona State Administrative Code specific to nitrate contributions to the groundwater. And you have to have a certain amount of space for when this treated effluent leaches into the ground to not cause nitrate issues with the water supply. The solution to that is alternate septic systems. The reason that they're different is they're like a small treatment plant. Not only do you have the septic tank infrastructure, but there's denitrification that happens through a filtration system with respect to that treatment system. We've worked with the state of Arizona, specifically ADEQ, as well as Mr. Peterson, this is Kevin Peterson's property, to come up with a design as well as a vendor for what's called a singular TNT system to be implemented in this area and satisfy the requirements that ADEQ has in terms of sewage treatment and ultimately water passing through that ends up in the aquifer. So that's my background. That's why I'm here today. This will be if approved, this will be the first of its kind of this type of waiver and approval to move forward. If approved, the developer will then come in for a tentative plat, ultimately a final plat for construction of his subdivision. If approved, I would anticipate that other developers that are in a similar situation might also like to use this method to move forward. Do you have any questions?
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did not the state used to allow either this method or something similar to it even 4 or 5 years ago? I can't remember exactly when they said no more of this. So is there going to be any issues going? I mean, the state going to say, yeah, this is okay now with us? That's the only thing. And I'm all for it. I mean, I just wonder if we'll run into any issues, regulatory issues.
Supervisor Miller, you're absolutely correct. And it's the same concern that Atul and I shared. But we have worked with the state to come up with this solution. And actually, their recommendation to us was, I think they have 5 different solutions for alternate septic that they've ratified and certified as usable techniques and technologies for this type of treatment. This is one of those that is already pre-approved by the state. The one key thing to speak to on this is when these alternate systems come in, we're not the ones that end up approving them. The state will be the one that approves them, not the county, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. That answers my question.
Any others? Seeing that there's none.
Sounds like a smelly situation.
Yeah. Well, we could use another word, but we won't. So, what's the board's prerogative?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 16 as presented.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, item number 17. Discussion, approval, disapproval of the following documents related to activities and operations at the Pinal County Airport. Oh, we've got Brother Petty. You're on, baby.
All righty. Chairman Goodman, Vice Chairman McClure, members of the board. I'm going to try and condense this because it's a very complicated We've got 10 different documents, I believe, that you were capable of reviewing,
Right.
4 that you'll be taking action on. They're all related to 2 separate things that are occurring in unison. They're related. One is the Second Amendment to the lease we have with Ascent, and the other one is the assignment of the lease that Ascent has with us to a company called Store. And before I continue, I just want to point out that the president of Ascent is with us today.
Okay.
Yeah, we're asking for your execution of those 4 documents. The airport has worked with the county attorney's office, and we worked with an external firm to make sure that we did our due diligence. Because of the complexity of this business deal, we wanted to make sure that we weren't putting the county at any type of risk with the FAA and grant assurances, and we believe we've done that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Scott.
Okay.
Legal questions, but that's what we're...
Anybody have any questions for Scott or for Mr. Petty? Supervisor McClure, you're leaning into the mic. That tells me you got a question.
I understand some of the complexity of this, so we've been looking at this for a while. What were the biggest concerns here for the edification of the board?
Personally, anytime we take a step where the bell is rung, I want to make sure that when the bell is rung, that there's no missteps. So that was my biggest concern. The benefits of this transaction are Ascent is going to be operating 2 new hangars, doing 777 passenger to freighter conversions. They're going to be employing at least 300 more people, and it's going to increase the airport on the radar around the nation. We're going to be a bigger beacon for business.
The viability, because it was a probably a $54 million investment is what the essentially Store is providing the equity, and they're getting the benefit of it, and we're having to go back through Store. Is that correct? That's kind of our lease agreement amendment.
So basically, and this is where it gets kind of complicated for an airport guy, it's a lease back. So
right.
That's what's happening. Ascent, the people that operate Ascent, and Mr. Quirio, the president, he'll still be there operating Ascent. I'll still have my relationships with them. It's just everything monetarily.
It's the way the money flows.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And legal's all happy with it?
Scott's over there.
Head nodding, okay.
Nodding his head going,
all right.
Let's move forward.
Bobbleheads.
I'm going to remember that.
Thank you.
I need to get a bobblehead, Scott. Okay. Is there any other further discussions or questions? Okay. With that being said, do we have a motion on item number 17?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item 17 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Go forward. Item number 18. This is the discussion, approval, disapproval of the request to create new job classifications within the county. And coming before is Claudia.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Goodman and members of the Board of Supervisors. Item 18, I'm requesting your approval for new job classifications to support the business needs of the departments and to allow us to facilitate seamless transition of incumbents into the county system. Funding for these positions is authorized in the Pinal County FY 24-25 budget. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Looks like we're all up to speed on this one. So do I have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 18 as presented.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Item number 19. Discussion of board members' requests for future agenda items and our reports to be presented at upcoming meetings. Is there anybody that would like to Supervisor Kavanaugh, did you have something?
Yeah, I think we had talked about it, Mr. Chairman, a report on the errors that occurred in the presidential preference election, how those errors will be avoided in the primary election.
Okay.
And there may be correction to the reporting process.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that too, because I'm curious how some of that information wasn't dissipated to all four of us, the other four. So anyway, Supervisor McClure, did you have something? Okay, I thought you did. Is there any others that? So we're good. I think I like the gentleman that's come before us several times with those, and then he gave us this report right here. Arlen Trout. I would just, if we could be brought up to speed on what's going on there later, or at least me, and maybe everybody else knows. I'm the one that's in the dark.
I need to know too.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks.
If I don't hear from anybody, I think it's okay. I think it's already been taken care of.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
I would like to, I have a motion to reconsider the item with respect to polling places. And you had a question that you just asked. And so we could reopen that item and have a quick discussion.
Can we, is that possible?
Yeah, I believe Supervisor Kavanaugh, you were in the majority in voting in favor of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then yes, you can reconsider it.
Oh, I thought, did you oppose it or did?
No, he was in favor of it.
Okay. There was something that was opposed by you, I think.
That was a property deal.
One of the land issues.
Land issue.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, yeah, so with that being said, we'll reopen that, yeah. We'll relook at that item. Which item is it?
Why?
Oh, why, okay. Polling locations. And remember, we're talking specifically about the polling locations themselves, just to remind everybody here.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We need to have a motion. There's been a motion made, and we need to have a vote on
Oh,
to reconsider that.
yes. So I think the motion's already been made. Is there a second on it? So that's failed because of a lack of a second. Okay. All right. So now we've got item number, where are we at? Come on, Goodman. 20. Executive session. Do I get a motion to go forward?
Mr. Chair, I move we recess the regular meeting and move to executive session.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are now in executive session.
Executive session, reconvene.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And none opposed, right? Meeting is adjourned.